Tonight on Mississippi Insight, the controversy surrounding the new Ole Miss Chancellor. Backlash against Dr. Glenn Boyce in the IHL. Tonight, the new details about the decision. Also, the two men running to be Mississippi Agriculture Commissioner. We're talking to the incumbent Andy Gipson and the Democrat challenger Rickey. Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, the controversy over the hiring of the new Ole Miss Chancellor, and now a new report casts new doubt over the whole process. It's been 3 weeks since the IHL Mississippi's College Board appointed Glenn Boyce as Chancellor. Boyce had been leading the search for effort as a paid consultant, but now, longer after quitting that role, he ended up in the job. Well, the appointment sparked backlash, protests on campus, and a vote of no confidence by the Ole Miss Faculty Senate. And now, in a new report from Mississippi Today, some of those passed over for the job are questioning Boyce's motives. Well, Mississippi Today's Adam Ganucheau has now been on top of this story from the very beginning. He joins us now here in the studio. And Adam, you talked with a number of applicants who believe that they were misled. Why do they feel that way about being misled in this whole process?
Well, I think, just earnestly, they were hoping to be given a fair shot. They spoke with Commissioner, or rather now Chancellor Boyce, starting back when he was a search consultant to the process back, that contract he signed started in January, ran through June. So from January to June, Glenn Boyce, who's now, of course, the Chancellor, was a consultant. During that time, he sought out meetings with potential applicants, people who had privately expressed interest. And, in Mississippi, there's not too much private about that. You start talking about that stuff and it gets around. So Boyce, as serving as a consultant, reached out to some of these people who had expressed interest in the Chancellor position, had these meetings with them, and I spoke with 7 of them in this report that we released this week. And all 7 of them are now questioning sort of his role and whether or not he was forthcoming with them about the potential of him becoming Chancellor, or at least being a candidate for Chancellor.
I know these folks you did not identify, and that reason was because of what?
Well, a lot of them are very influential people in Mississippi. They, told us they had concerns about their personal and professional relationships moving forward with the university if they were to come out. Others, talked about, I might be a candidate at either for another position at Ole Miss or maybe another 4-year university, and I don't want to, harm my chances of doing that. Another reason that we heard from some of them, quite frankly, was, this does need to get out. I think it's important for people to hear sort of the context of these early conversations that we had with Boyce when he was still a consultant. But, they talked about, we still do love the University of Mississippi, and, I'm not sure that tarnishing the name of the university, or at least the IHL board the College Board during this search process, would be the best thing to do publicly. So, as a reporter, we weigh all that. We try to give everyone fair consideration, and the fact of the matter is, the bottom line on this story is, if we were wanting to use their names, we wouldn't have been able to publish this story. And I think the greater good here is the transparency that comes along with knowing more, learning more about the process of Glenn Boyce's ultimate appointment of Chancellor. But even before that, as this story is more focused on his role as a consultant earlier this year.
So are they believing that his appointment, how he got there, that he came through the back door and maybe it was a little foul play here?
They're questioning that. So you won't see anyone quoted in our article saying that Glenn Boyce did this the wrong way. They're questioning what his intentions truly were. There's no smoking gun here. I'm not sure one exists. We certainly haven't seen it yet, Byron, but that's the whole purpose of this reporting, I think, is to try to continue to chip away at what the real story here is, and whether or not Boyce was sort of considered the shoe-in all year long during this process as Chancellor. So we'll see how it plays out.
Glenn Boyce, you had a statement in your article in Mississippi Today that reached some party, said, "Everything I've learned during this process, I communicated freely with the people who contacted me and expressed interest in this position," end quote.
All along, I'm going to be completely fair to him and completely fair to the IHL. All along, every official, including Boyce himself, has said, I did not know that I wanted to be a candidate for Chancellor until roughly around September 1st, I think, is really when that started heating up. So, our reporting today, this contract, like I said earlier, ran from January through June. His story all along has been I didn't know I wanted to be a candidate when I was talking to these other, potential candidates, and that was a story. And the statement he gave us reflected that. On the flip side, I think this is the first time in this story that people have heard from those candidates. So the lead quote in our article today is from an applicant who submitted an application, went through the process, was encouraged to apply by Boyce himself back earlier this year.
Sure.
And he said, had I known Boyce would later be a candidate himself, I never would have opened up and shared my vision for the university with him, because he could have used my words for himself at any point later in the process.
These candidates have a lot of clout. Some of them very powerful people. Do they have any recourse because of what happened?
That's kind of the $1 million question here. I think you mentioned faculty and students have protested. The faculty Senate passed a vote of no confidence of the IHL. So it's important to note that's not of Boyce himself.
Right.
It's of the IHL search process. I think a lot of people, I think that would include these faculty Senate members who voted to pass this vote of no confidence, are hoping that the accreditation bodies come in and do some sort of independent investigation of the process. So they're not necessarily saying we need to pick a new chancellor. They're not saying anything about Boyce himself necessarily. They're saying we disagreed with how this process, the hiring of Glenn Boyce as chancellor, played out. For his part, Chancellor Boyce has stuck with it. He's signaled nothing that suggests that he might resign or kind of bow out at this point. He's focused in this statement that you just read part of. The second half of it was basically like, I'm going to continue focusing on bringing everyone together at Ole Miss and doing what's best for this university. That's been his outlook so far.
How does he lead with this cloud over his head? Is he going to be able to lead, or do you think it's going to be difficult for him?
Look, it's tough. Everyone we have talked to, with a few exceptions, there have been some publicly supportive people of Boyce himself. I haven't found anybody who can earnestly say that they are okay with the process and how it played out. But with Boyce himself, there have been a handful of people who have said, look, what's done is done, let's move on, let's come together and let's do what's best for the university. That being said, the vast majority of the people we talk to, whether it's alumni, whether it's faculty, students, and when I say alumni, I'm not just talking about a handful of people on Twitter. I'm talking about a broad range of alumni with very diverse backgrounds, political beliefs, socioeconomic backgrounds, everything, who really are questioning still to this day the process and how he was hired. For Boyce, I think I've reported, several people, I've quoted several people saying it might be a little bit unfair to him to have this shadow cast over his leadership. And, this is kind of a crucial time at the University of Mississippi, and a lot of people are divided. Maybe it's unfair to him to let this sort of shadow hang over him, but at the same time, I think it's really hard for people, and it's continued to be hard for people to separate Boyce, the chancellor, from Boyce, the consultant, and the IHL search process.
So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks,
Adam Ganucheau with the Mississippi Today. Thank you for joining us. And when we come back, we're talking with the candidates in the race for Mississippi Agriculture Commissioner. We'll be right back. Election Day is a week from Tuesday, and we are profiling some of the key races tonight. The battle for Agriculture Commissioner, Republican Andy Gipson, who was appointed Ag Commissioner by Governor Phil Bryant, is taking on Democrat Rickey. 12 News' Gerald Harris spoke with both men.
And I'm joined by Agriculture Commissioner Andy Gipson. And Commissioner Gipson, you're appointed, but now you're running for the office. Tell me why you decided to run.
I wouldn't have taken this role if I had not intended to run a full 4 years. It's been a joy to serve as your Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce, and we've been able to get so much done in the way of our local food program, Genuine Mississippi. In fact, I'm wearing that brand right there, Genuine Mississippi, everything grown, raised, crafted, and made. We've had great success in terms of international trade, getting good deals for our farmers, even in the midst of tough times. We came away with a great deal for our soybean and corn farmers here, and then working on the agriculture workforce. And we're just getting started. So I really feel like we need 4 more years to get the thing really off the ground, and I'm excited to be running. Yes.
Let's talk about the Delta for a minute. The Delta has seen some flooding, and some of those Delta farmers unable to plant their seeds, and then back to back with the drought.
Yeah.
Talk about how we can make the Delta, which was rich with land and farmers, how can we get them back to working?
Well, the first thing we need to do is finish the pumps. That's why when the flooding hit this spring, not only did I visit and talk with our farmers there, but we researched the issues that have led up to the denial of the pumps, the Yazoo backwater pumps, and wrote the Environmental and Protection Agency and was pleased that the EPA wrote me back a letter that they were reconsidering their veto of these pumps. I support our South Delta farmers at Warren, Yazoo, Issaquah, Sharkey County, all those affected by the floods, and we are going to finish those pumps.
Let's talk about food insecurity here in Mississippi. There are areas where there's 1 or 2 grocery shops. How do we make families healthier and give them healthier options out there and homegrown?
Yes, we need more local foods, and that's why just a year and 2 months ago we launched the Genuine Mississippi program. You can go to our website, genuinems.com, and literally anything grown, raised, crafted, or made right here in Mississippi, from local produce, local beef, local chicken, crafted products like sweet potato products and the good old pecan pies that we enjoy here in Mississippi. Anything raised right here in Mississippi, it's online. You can see it, you can buy it locally. And on top of that, we have about 80 certified Mississippi farmers markets that our office is working with on a daily basis, making sure our people have fresh local foods. The more locally we eat, the healthier we are.
How do we embolden the state fairground to make it a 365-day operation?
You know, that's a great issue that I want to address. I've been chairman of the Mississippi Fair Commission now for about 18 months. And we, of course, when I came in, we were already building a brand new trade mart. I view this as a new opportunity for a brand new beginning for the Mississippi Fairgrounds. The trade mart should be complete in the coming year. But on top of that, we've made improvements in our livestock barns that really are overdue. We were able to completely rewire them. Let's remember, the reason we have a state fairgrounds is because of Mississippi agriculture. We are supposed to be promoting agriculture and better livestock methods, so our livestock barns are the heartbeat of the fairgrounds. We were able to upgrade them. We were able to paint them with, the little paint, to take pride in what we have. We'll never be a Houston livestock show, but we can be a baby Houston. We can be we can take pride in what we do have, and we were able to air condition the restrooms, for example, this year for our livestock community. I want to revamp that old armory, the old guard armory there. I believe that's a huge possibility for a beautiful venue, for medium-sized events, and of course bringing more horse shows back like we're doing at the Kirk Fordyce Equine Center.
You have been around the world almost and trying to sell Mississippi products. Talk about your work and why that's necessary for you as the Agriculture Commissioner.
Absolutely. While we all support the concept, and I do personally, to eat locally, to buy locally, to support our local farmers, the fact of the matter is Mississippi, a state of only 3 million people, we're producing hundreds of times more than we as a state could ever consume. And so if we can't consume it, we have to sell it, and we have to sell it nationally and internationally. So one of my roles, and as in the commerce side of the Department of Agriculture and Commerce, is to promote Mississippi. And I'm proud to be from Mississippi. I know we have had our issues, we have our challenges, we still do, but we're working through those. And one thing we all can agree on is if it can be grown, if it can be raised, we can raise it right here in Mississippi better than anybody else. So I have no problem going over to, for example, meeting with the president of Taiwan. I gave her one of my Genuine Mississippi lapel pins because I'm proud of our state and what we have to offer.
And you have 60 seconds. There's your camera. Talk to the people of Mississippi why they should bubble in your name come November 5th.
Well, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have served you now for 18 months. I'm not running on what I could do or what I hope to do, but I'm telling you what I've actually done. We've increased Mississippi's footprint around the world. We've gotten trade deals for our farmers, for our soybean and corn farmers, beef and chicken. And we are growing Mississippi local food through our Genuine Mississippi program. I want your support for the next generation of our farmers, the future of Mississippi agriculture and commerce. Y'all, thank you for your support. I want your vote on November 5th. Thank you very much.
And I'm joined by the Democrat nominee for Agriculture and Commerce Commissioner here in the state of Mississippi, Mr. Rickey Coles. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, we're going to dive right into it because this is a very important position for those in Mississippi, the Agriculture and Commerce Commissioner. Make the case for why you deserve to be elected November 5th.
Well, I'm running to make some changes in our food system. Right now in Mississippi, it costs too much to eat healthy. I want to change that. I want to eliminate the grocery tax on all food produced in Mississippi. I want to produce more of what we eat in Mississippi. We send $6 billion a year out of the state to buy food from other states and other countries when we could be producing much of that right here in Mississippi. So I want to be a change leader to make it easier for Mississippians to eat healthy and be able to fight heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and the other illnesses that are killing our people.
And when you're on the campaign trail, are you hearing any feedback like that when you're out there talking about these issues to those people?
Yes, but I really like to tell folks that I'm running for Commissioner of Food, and that gets their attention right away. It is very difficult to balance a tight budget with a good diet. And so everywhere we go, the responses we've been getting are overwhelmingly positive when we talk about the possibilities of making it more affordable to eat healthy in Mississippi.
Talk about the farmers in the Mississippi Delta. How can they bounce back from what was a devastating flood and now what was a drought for a small period of time?
Well, the first thing that needs to happen for the Mississippi Delta is for the Yazoo pumps to be built right away. But in the long term, we need to look at diversification of production. You know, it doesn't make any sense for the Mississippi Delta to be the richest land in the Western Hemisphere, yet also a food desert. So my concept of local producers being able to feed local consumers would help lift up the economy in our small towns, not just in the Delta, but all over the state. You know, rural economic development really hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves in Mississippi, in my opinion.
What about those farmers along the Gulf Coast who was hit with, you know, devastating loss?
Well, we have to sit down with our neighboring states and have a frank and candid discussion about how we can deal with flood control along the river in a way that it doesn't adversely affect the economies of Louisiana, Mississippi, or Arkansas. And that really hasn't been being done. You know, the spillways were opened without any input from us. And in the future, when these high rivers come, and the river's high tide will come again, we will see flooding again. We need to work as a team, all of the states that border the river all the way up to Minnesota, and make sure that no state bears the brunt of the flooding.
Talk to me about what makes you a different candidate than the current commissioner.
Well, I'm not going to be so arrogant as to say that I would do a better job, but I would approach the job differently. This is my dream job. The two things I know about are politics and agriculture, and I'm not going to use the position as a stepping stone to some other office. I do want to make a change in the direction of the office. I think that we have to have much more focus on developing local markets for Mississippi agricultural products. I think that's where the most money is and the most influence we can have locally over our markets.
Also under your purview is the Mississippi Fairgrounds.
Yes.
What's your vision for the fairgrounds, and can it become a hub more than 2 weeks out of the year?
The fairgrounds are Mississippi's front yard. and we don't use them nearly enough. The fairgrounds ought to be used 24/7, 365. And I think we need to open up that facility to innovative developments and things like family reunions. I think it should be a center for gospel performance, by example. But we also need to put in some green space at the fairgrounds. You know, Mississippi, if Mississippi is going to have a front yard, it probably shouldn't all be asphalt. You know, we should have some grass and some trees and some green space down there.
Certainly, and that's your camera there. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to make your pitch to voters to why they should bubble in your name November 5th.
Well, I'm offering to serve. My life has been devoted to agriculture and public affairs. I think that the experiences I've had over the past 35 years speak for themselves. I believe Mississippi is the best place in the world, and we can do a whole lot better by ourselves and our fellow Mississippians if we will simply invest in a system that creates opportunities in every community for neighbors to be able to feed neighbors. Let's get Mississippi growing again, and let's make food in Mississippi safe, affordable, local, and abundant. And that's why I need to be your Commissioner of Food come November the 5th. Remember the 5th of November. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rickey Cole. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
He's taking on Commissioner Andy Gipson November 5th, and we'll have your local election headquarters right here on WJTV 12.
Thanks to Mississippi Today's Ganucheau, Commissioner Andy Gipson and Rickey Cole for joining us. A reminder, if you missed any of tonight's episodes or to see any previous editions of Mississippi Insight, go to our website. It's WJTV.com. For Gerald Harris, I'm Byron Brown. We'll see you back here next Saturday night. Make it a good night, everyone.